Hello everybody and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today we are going to be doing a deep dive into the latest hotfix. We're going to be putting the sim through its tests. Any crashes that happen, you guys will be here to witness. And any of the good things, hopefully you'll be here to witness. So stick around guys, because we're going to see what happened with the hotfix. If you are interested in learning how to fly the A320, consider checking out my Overkill's A320 guide. This guide is available on either my Patreon site or via PayPal donation. PayPal donation, $10 or more. Just be sure to specify which guide you're looking for, as I have more than one. Patreon site, tier 2 or above, again, $10 a month, but that gives you access to all the guides that I currently have available, and then all that are coming in the future. My A320 guide walks you through how to install the A32NX mod by Flybywire. For those who don't know, the A32NX mod takes the default A320 Microsoft Flight Simulator and brings its functionality and features up to what I would consider study level simulation, and it's all completely free. So be sure to check that out. This guide walks you through everything from creating your flight plan into SimBrief, reading your flight plan in SimBrief, entering your flight plan in Microsoft Flight Simulator if that's how you choose to do so in the main menu or in the main map, full cockpit tours, walking through every button, switch, etc., letting you guys know where all the different panels and what the different options are, different displays on the screen and icons and things that you may experience while in flight and what they mean and how to read them and interpolate the information being displayed, the preliminary checklist before startup, starting up the aircraft, taxi, takeoff, navigation, your altitude management, features of the MCDU that aren't related specifically to the A320 but are available because of Flybywire and their efforts, how to break down a flight route, understanding what you're looking at so you can take this information, use it in future flights, rather than just copying and pasting information that you're seeing on a screen or on a document, how to acquire some more information that's provided in the A320, specifically the A32NX. The different gauges, again, understanding what you're looking at versus just, powering up and going, getting some of that background information to solidify your flight, looking at approach plates, departure plates, SIDS, stars, all those things that we have to consider when doing an IFR flight, managing your descent, when to start your descent, as well as the approach and giving you goals of where you want to be at specific points and even the missed approach. For shutdown, we go through the startup or the cold and dark and the turnaround status. So again, if you guys are interested in a guide like this and interested in learning how to fly the A320, consider donating or subscribing to Patreon to acquire your guide. All right, so before we get into it, I do want to remind everyone about the live stream tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, that's tonight, Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Catch me on Twitch. Link will be down in the description below if you guys are interested. I'd love to sit and chat with you guys, where we will be once again flying Microsoft Flight Simulator and hoping that all goes well. I have already seen some of the comments in relation to my previous video about the hotfix and that it didn't solve many issues for people. So we're going to go through the steps that I took to install the update and then go from there. We'll move into what the current sim status is, graphic settings, performance, etc. So the first thing that we want to talk about is before I ran the update. Okay, I went into my packages folder. Okay, I went to my community folder and I deleted it. I did not open it up and remove the contents. I completely deleted the directory and let the sim recreate it when it launched. Okay, that was my first step. That is the only thing I've done in regard to the directory so far. Now, once the sim launched, I loaded into the sim, loaded into a map, loaded into a plane. Once I loaded into the runway, I closed the sim down and relaunched with the A32NX installed. It is the only thing installed. I am using add-ons linker to do so. I did not install the A320 directly into the community directory. I wanted to have the ability to remove it very easily. So now let's go ahead and start diving into some things. So first, taking a look at the content manager, we're going to check and see if there are any updates available. Not installed. Okay, that's just the Nordics update. I'll worry about that when we verify that things are actually working correctly. Let's take a look at the current graphics settings. Current graphic settings, we have a custom set, but it's basically ultra. I'll just sort of let you guys roll through these. The only thing that I changed from ultra was the texture resolution back down to high, but as you can see, everything else is still up pretty darn high. Ultra, if not ultra, typically on high. The glass cockpit refresh rate, even on ultra, it defaults to the medium refresh rate, so we'll leave that as is for the moment. Going into traffic, real-time AI traffic is turned on now. You guys can see what the density settings are, as well as the models that are being used. Going into data, all online functionality is on. And rolling cache, let's go ahead and turn it on, and let's set a size limit. We'll give it, oh, I hate that it does this. We'll give it 10 gigs, and hit OK, and apply. So everything is now back on to the state at which I like to operate at. Accessibility, I have the legacy tooltips enabled for cockpit interaction, and or interaction set to legacy, and tooltips are disabled. I can't stand tooltips. Cursor acceleration, cursor max speed. Okay, cool. And you know what? Skip pre-flight cinematics. I do have that turned on as well. All right. So let's move on. So at this point, first thing we'll do is we're going to take our Cessna 172 and let's go to Tokyo. And this time I will look in the right country. Makes a big difference. I did feel like a retard the other day when I did that. That was not one of my brighter moments. We'll set that as a departure. Go straight from the runway. Let's find our plane. I wish they would make like a favorites menu. Propellers, and we'll use the G1000. All right, and let's go back to the world map and hit fly. Now, I do want to remind everybody, when I'm flying the Cessna in this, I do not care about the proper way of flying it. I got a lot of comments, oh, you did this, you didn't set your speed bugs, you didn't set... I am not flying by the checklist. This is a performance test. I am not interested in how I'm flying, so if that's something you are that hell-bent on, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and turn some light up here. All right, so live weather seems to be working well. Now you can see our frame rate is not what it was before. I am getting some weird, it almost looks like motion blur is on. Hang on a second, let's go back and check that. Motion blur is another one that I hate the way it's implemented. And that's with any simulator. That's not even Microsoft Flight Simulator. Motion blur, yeah, it is. Never works right on any sim I've ever been on. So I think it's one of those things. Same thing with depth of field. I don't normally use it as well. So I'm going to turn both of those off. Go back into resume. Okay. All right, and we can see here what our current RAM usage is. We're looking at 4.5 gigs currently. And then a limited by main thread up here means that the CPU is using all it can use. So let's go ahead and release the parking brake, and we're just going to do a quick generic flight. Again, I am not concerned with how I fly. I'm concerned with what the sim does when we fly. I will say that I'm still very happy to see that the load time has been dramatically reduced. The load time used to be just outrageous, as you guys all know. We'll leave the fog and cloud density on high for right now. We'll leave it as live weather. And then as we start exploring and seeing how things are performing, we'll change it. So, not the frame rates that we were used to seeing, I feel like. I feel like the frame rate has come down significantly with this latest hotfix, if you will. I feel like it's a little lower, but now let's go ahead and do a weather change. go to clear skies. That works. So we gained a few frames. And again, this is cranked pretty high. I could honestly pull quite a bit back and probably save some. What I'm looking for here is we're testing to see as we fly what the load is on the machine. I am currently paying very close attention to the memory. Memory usage seems to be pretty stable. It's normal for it to fluctuate a bit as scenery changes, so that's okay. The trim is so responsive now. Almost too responsive. Now, what I'm not seeing that I don't like, and let me make sure I'm actually pointed in the right direction. The load distance seems to be, well, actually I guess it's okay. I'm thinking I didn't pick the airport I think I meant to pick, because I feel like I'm missing all this. Oh no, I guess we're just above them. Looking for the skyscrapers and things. So I am paying close attention to that, seeing when the scenery loads. Looking for anything popping up, tearing on the screens, shimmering or fluctuation, indicating improper loading. Memory usage still perfectly where it needs to be. I want to remind everyone also this is the store version. It's not Steam. Unfortunately, that absolutely could make a difference. It really can. It all depends on how Steam's updater handles it. So there could be issues outside of that. Not that that would be Steam's fault per se. Oh, you and your terrain warnings. I gotta figure out how to turn the altimeter warning off. Alright, let's try to dramatically change the scenery. Flying this thing like an F-16 here.
Don't sink, don't sink.
You don't sink.
Don't sink, 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 don't sink.
Okay, so as far as I can tell here, it's operating very nicely. So the next thing we'll check before we move on to the A320 in a different location. Thought I saw the memory spike. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line. Okay, so the first thing that we'll try next, before we jump into the A320, because I know that's one that is also being reported as having an issue now, is let's check making a flight plan at the game menu. So again, you guys are going to follow me step by step. I'm not going to cut anything out of the video. That way if a crash or anything happens, you guys witness it. That was a very fast load back into the main menu. That was actually quite pleasant. Okay, so let's do this. I'm just going back over to my comfort zone here so I can create a generic flight plan here. Something that we can do easily. So this was another issue that was brought up. So we're going to set 29 right in Tucson as our departure. And we're going to go, let's see here, what do I want to do? I want to set our arrival. Sure, let's use Phoenix. All right, now the issue was that we could not create a IFR flight plan. We're obviously not going to fly high altitude airways in a Cessna, but I'm just testing the creation. Set our departure. Let's use Wildcat 3 from 29 right. Our arrivals, let's bring it in on the Hollywood 1. which is missing. Oh, because we have the wrong airport. That was not smart. Let's use the ping one. And the ping one on to ILS 26. Okay, that's a really goofy approach. But now we're just going to hit fly, verify the flight plan loads, and the sim doesn't crash. And now the drag about this is, obviously there's no way for me to verify that this works well with every single flight plan, right? I mean, there's a list of them. So, I mean, it could be location-based, scenery-based. So that's why I wanted to stress at the beginning that the only thing we currently have loaded in right now is the A320. And there is nothing else, no other scenery, no nothing. Except for from the catalog, actually. The marketplace, I may have some stuff. So what is ATC saying? I still wish I could get the audio. I would love to know why my audio isn't working. Actually, somebody pointed something out. Well, I'll try that later. I'm not worried about that right now. Okay, so we loaded in. No crash yet. RAM was still steady, about 4.4 gigs. Okay, so that didn't seem to be an impact based on location, which is nice. And the frame rate was obviously much higher, being that Tucson is significantly smaller than Tokyo. Now let's go. See, where did I test the other day? I think it was JFK, right? JFK. There we go. And let's park an A320 out here. So let's go grab her. Let's find the airliners. And let's go to LEAP. A320. Not worried about. And that's the other thing. Not even liveries. I don't have any liveries in yet either. And you guys need to understand, especially when it comes to things like memory leaks or service terminations, and there it is. That's a crash. Okay, so fly-by-wire may be busted. So let's do this. Let's go to, and there is an update. So let's update our A320. Now what I'm going to need to do is go to the add-ons link here. Well, actually, I guess I shouldn't. I don't think I have to do that because it's just going to link the installation files. Okay, so we have that set. Well, yeah, let's launch the add-ons linker just to make sure we're square. And I'm going to remove the A320 and then bring it back in. Just to make sure we're doing our due diligence here. Because it should only be creating a link. It's not actually copying files over to the directory, but just to be safe. Okay. Now let's relaunch the simulator. I'm going to pause the recording for a quick second just to make sure that you guys are actually seeing all of this. Okay, so we are good to go. Now let's go ahead and launch the sim. I just hit the executable. Let me delete some of this other nonsense I have here. There we go. And so when it comes to things like the fly-by-wire A320 or the TBM 930, missing cockpits, textures, things like that, you guys need to understand that liveries come into play there. And we also need to remember that even fly-by-wire being a part of the, Asobo team now, or, being partnered with them, that does not mean that their aircraft should not still be considered an add-on and third party. Meaning that you can't blame, as much as we want to, we can't really blame Asobo for the A320 not functioning. Okay, if it's causing crashes and breaks, that's up to the fly-by-wire team to fix. Yes, it means that Asobo changed something that now is deeming the A320 incompatible, but it's still the developer of that particular mod or add-on that is required to make the adjustment necessary for that service to work. Okay, so whenever you're doing you guys' testing, you need to make sure you're using only default aircraft, only default liveries, only default cockpit liveries, and only default services. If you're using any kind of third-party application, right down to Navigraph charts, with SimLink, you can't do that. You can't do that and get an accurate test. Okay, because any one of those features are still third-party to Microsoft Flight Simulator. They are not by default you know, native to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and therefore there may be a change that needs to be made on their software in order for it to work with the latest version of Microsoft Flight Simulator. We see this all the time in software development. You know, I run into this on a weekly basis with what I do professionally. You know, X software does an update which breaks the integration with Y software. So that's just something that you guys do need to keep in mind and be very fair about in order to keep your expectations in line with what you should actually be experiencing following an update. You know, Asobo is the developer of Microsoft Flight Simulator. They are not the developer of anything else. And so you need to remember that. Asobo and Microsoft Flight Simulator's code and integration lines are going to change, and it's up to the third-party developers to make their product change to continue the integration. Okay, so, and this is just as frustrating for me. I mean, you take a look at my channel and how many videos are not Microsoft Flight Simulator. I love making videos on it. I love doing my add-ons. I love playing with all of this stuff. And, you know, when it breaks, I get just as bummed out. But I have to be fair on who's the one that can actually solve issue A versus issue D. You know what I mean? So let's see what happens now. And if it crashes again, what we're going to do is pick the default A320 and load into JFK again. Okay, so we're in our A320. Frame rates look decent. Honestly, common to what we've been getting. And so let's start turning some screens on. I'm just going to walk through a very quick power up, not really following any particular procedure, just seeing what happens as we start piecing things together. And seeing if we can replicate another crash. Again, watching the memory usage, obviously it's a bit higher now. Let's turn the fly pad on, let's turn our screens up. Check the external view. That's interesting approach. JFK should be a lot busier than this. That's really sad. So AI aircraft doesn't seem to be working for squat. I bet you this is multiplayer, these planes that are bolting across the skies here, which is cool. Alright, and we are getting some stuttering again, so I'm going to tone down some of these settings. I am running higher than I normally run. I have to be fair to that. So let's pull some of this down to high. I don't normally run this high. And I was sort of skeptical that I was going to be able to run that high to begin with, so. Alright, so right there, immediately I got some frames back by turning that down. Things are a bit smoother. But yeah, so I would say the A320, you know, that resolved the issue by simply doing an update. We're watching our RAM usage here. Holding steady between 6.2 and 6.3 gigs. As we navigate around, obviously that's going to increase based on what we're looking at. That's perfectly normal. I'm not seeing that increase. Frame rate, unfortunately, I feel like it's dropped back to about where it was. In the last segment of this video, we will test out VR again and see if it is functional or if things have been crushed back down. Let's see what I can do to bring some of these, see if I can get some of these frame rates back. Things that I'm willing to sacrifice on. The clouds are already unfortunately dumbed down. That did bum me out. I'm running at 4K, so I'm going to take the texture super sampling down a bit. You know, it doesn't need to be as high. Shadow mappings, I really like the shadows, but let's take some of these and kick these just down to high and see what we get. Looks like it's already starting to jump a bit. Kick each of those down one more time. Do an apply and save. Okay, so again, get a lot of the smoothness back now. I do feel like I'm getting the stuttering again. I do feel like I'm getting stutters. So that's kind of a drag. Let's do this. And I think that actually there's probably no better plane to test this with than the A320, as it's such a beast in itself. Let's start VR and see what happens. Well, let's not use the A320. That is unfair. That's an unfair statement. The A320 requires a lot. It's a beast. So let's do this. Let's come down. And I'm also going to come out of JFK. But we did see the A320 was work. I was able to power it on following the update from Flybywire. Flybywire had to fix something to make the update work. Okay, and that's why I would use the development version. I mean, it updates sometimes a couple times a day. I don't update it a couple times a day. I typically only update once a day, unless they're like we just ran into, like I run into an issue. Yeah, I will. I'm going to come back to my hometown here. I'm going to set us up on a runway. And I still want to pick something else though. Let's go maybe the G36. Let's check out the G36 or something. Oh, there she is right there. Yep, let's use it. All right, and let's go fly. Okay, I do love the loading time. Okay, and as you're seeing here, even though we're in Tucson and, you know, clear skies basically, I mean, pretty much looks like high altitude, we're getting very similar frame rates to what we were getting in the A320. So that was actually a good move to switch it, because not much has changed is what that tells me. So in a way, that's a good thing. The fact that I can go from JFK to Tucson, and again, guys, if you are interested, look at a map. They are massive size difference there. Tucson looks like, you know, something you'd put in a shoebox compared to New York. The fact that you can go there and get relatively the same frame rates is a good sign. That is a good thing, because it still means that you're going to be able to dial in your system to where it's at least comfortable to play at any location. Where, for example, what we were running into before is if you were flying out of New York one day or Tucson the next day, you know, if you were interested in taking the time to do it, you could dial Tucson way up, increase the graphics, make it look nice. But then when you went to JFK, you typically have to bring them back down in order to associate. And doesn't seem to be an issue anymore. So let's go ahead and get her up and running in VR. So what I need, and these are the steps I'm going to take, I have to launch my Pimax software first. So there's the Pi tool coming up. And you guys are going to be the only ones who can see this, the frame rate. Now I'm going to do, I use a wide field of view. So to keep things as accurate as what most of you would be seeing, I am going to change my field of view down to the normal, which is what most of you are using. Oh, it's already there. All right, cool. And actually, I think normal is not what you guys are used to seeing. So you can see I have hidden mask area on. I'm going to turn that off. So what that basically means, for those of you who have never seen anything like this before, hidden area mask means that anything that is not visible in the lens is not rendered. Okay, it's supposed to save on performance. Smart smoothing, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off as well. That's very similar to, I can't think of the word. Hopefully some of you can know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I can't think of the dang terminology. Can't think of it. It's gone. Basically, it's where it tries to create an image. It's supposed to help things look smoother. I can't think of the freaking name. One of you sitting there laughing at me, if not all of you. Okay, so that is what it is. Let's find my... Where did my Pi tool go? Did I just close it? I totally did. No, I didn't. There it is. Now I'm going to launch Steam VR. Where are you? There you are. Gosh, sorry, I didn't realize it had loaded. Okay, and I'm going to change some of my settings here real quick because it's set way low. So I'm going to go up to, let's do 100%. So right now my SteamVR resolution is set at 2520 by 2104. So we're going to see what that does, start there, and then move forward. So I'm switching over to the VR headset. And reminder, this is the 8KX. Cool, that was instant. Jeez. All right, and you guys are the only ones who can see the frame rate, and I'm going to be telling you guys what I'm feeling and experiencing here. Okay, so if you guys are noticing the weird flickering around the edges of the screen, that is a bug in relation to specifically Pimax headsets because of the wide field of view. It has to do with the way it renders, so that is not something that should be impacting any other headset. Outside of that issue, everything is very, very smooth. Maybe a couple jitters here and there. Definitely more than last time. However, last time I did not have my resolution set this high. So that is something to also be very fair with. Oop, I am apparently on the wrong control setting. Let's push you forward. Okay, let's go max power here. Gear coming up. So other than, yes, that tearing around the edges, it's smooth as glass right now. And again, I want to stress that is a bug with Pimax headsets. That is not the simulator talking. There we go, that's better. I like to be able to see over the nose, even though I'm cracking my head open here. My flaps up, yep. Oh, stop with your don't sink. I want to sink. I'm trying to sink on purpose. Got an aircraft right out there at our 11 o'clock there. Looks like a fireball, but you know. So yeah, everything is working very, very nicely. Again, let's change scenery rapidly. Hopefully without crashing a Bonanza. No issues at all. Smooth as glass. And it looks very nice out there. It looks very nice. Maybe a little bit of shimmering here and there, but nothing like it was before I don't know why I keep trying to call it 2.5. Before Sim Update 5, it was terrible. Like I so rarely flew in VR before Sim Update 5. Just because I got tired of the shimmering and all the things that would break the immersion. Okay, that was a stutter right there. Now, the thing about the stuttering, I have rolling cache turned on. I have AI traffic turned on. I have multiplayer turned on. I have live weather turned on. I have, all of that is going to be network. And if at any point during your flight, any one of those items lags or has latency, you're going to get a stutter. That's as cool as all these live this, live that is, you take the risk of any one of those services. They're all pulling a different server. Every one of those commands is looking somewhere else for their specific data. The terrain's looking one specific place, the weather's looking one specific place, multiplayer's looking a specific place. And if at any of those connections there's a lag or a latency, and that could be anywhere from starting at your computer all the way out to the end server, wherever they're pulling the data from. So the internet service providers, the telephone lines, satellites, whatever. If at any point any of those services have a latency, you're going to get a stutter because it's unable to generate the data that you're requesting fast enough. So some of those, again, are going to happen. It's the nature of the beast. You know, I am not trying to defend Asobo by any means. You guys know me. I'm very honest. At least I try to be, and I have no problem calling anybody out when they do something dumb. I have yelled at DCS before. I have said negative content about Microsoft before and Asobo before. You know, I call people out on what I deem as their responsibility, at least what I feel, right? And obviously that's always subjective. You know, I'm not the answer to all problems, and you know, I certainly don't know everything. There's a lot that I don't know, and I recognize that. So keep that in consideration as I say this. That Microsoft Flight Simulator, yes, the issues get frustrating. I am the first one to say that, but guys, I can't stress enough, it is still an infant. Microsoft Flight Simulator is still a baby. And it, you know, we try to compare it. I hear people all the time comparing it to X-Plane 11 and P3D and all that. You can't. It's a completely new simulator. It's built from the ground up. It's running completely new terrain and getting its imagery and getting its information in a completely different manner. You know, in X-Plane 11 and things like that, we used to have to use third parties to get live data, live terrain. I mean, just putting, you know, satellite imagery into X-Plane 11 was a pain in the rear end. You know, it was cool when you got it to work, but man, dealing with all the layers and the textures, and this had to be in that order and that has to be in this order, that was a pain in the butt. So you know, try to keep an open mind in this fact that this is it's revolutionary. It's a change. It's going to change the way flight simulators are made from here on out. And it's going to take some time. I mean, it's only been a year, guys. I know that some people are going, oh, it's been a whole year. A year is nothing when you're talking about a service that is being offered worldwide. You know, all of us with our own different computers, different configurations, different hardwares, different drivers, different softwares, different antiviruses, different internet service providers. You know, all of those things come into play with Microsoft Flight Simulator because of all the different things that it uses on the network and on the computer. So just keep that in mind. And again, I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm just trying to give you guys some understanding, and hopefully through understanding we can get patience, and through patience we can, you know, lose some of the frustration, right? I get just as annoyed with it. I mean, you guys saw right at the beginning of the video, we had a crash, you know, getting into the A320. But we need to make sure we're looking to go to the right people when there's a crash. Let's go ahead and bring this girl down with a very horrible landing. I'm just sort of going to wing it. All right, completely off the books, very Blue Angel status landing. Let's see what we can do. Don't ever do this in a Bonanza. Don't ever do this in any plane for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I should have done this in the A320. That'd be interesting. All right, we're cutting power here. Oh my God, get on the runway. I was about to Harrison Ford it. I'm sorry, is that too soon? I really like Harrison Ford. That was mean. That was mean. Now I feel bad. I'm feeling guilty. Remember what I said at the beginning of this video, guys. I do not care about how I'm flying. I'm just being silly, trying to throw some fun content at the end of it. Smooth as a button. And that would have been the last time I ever flew a plane in the United States. Anyway, so guys, I hope this has answered some questions for you. I hope it has given you some things to think about. Please keep shouting out those errors and things that you guys see. Remember, give me as much information as possible. I can't do anything. If you just tell me, oh, it crashed, you know, it just keeps crashing. I need more information than that. You got to tell me what you're doing when it happens. Does it happen consistently when you do XYZ? Remember to delete the community folder before you do an update, and even after an update, you know, delete the community folder, launch the sim, let it recreate it, see if that doesn't solve some issues. All right, keep me posted, guys. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Again, remember tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live stream on Twitch. Link down the description. I hope to see you all there. And if not, have a wonderful weekend, guys, and stay tuned for more content.